start.
Okay. All right, well, thank you guys for coming to the last math talk of the semester. We'll do it again next semester as well. Our goal, remember, is just to show you that math can be fun and math can show up in other aspects of your life, okay? So we've seen it in scuba diving, we've seen it in crime scenes, and now we're going to see the fun part because the holidays are coming and you want to beat your parents in some kind of board game, right? All right, so I'll turn it over to Chuck. Some of you will have him next semester in Math 1000 or Math 1400. And some of you guys have him now. So if you don't know him, I'm his better half. But no, he's my better half. Thanks for coming today, guys.
All right, so I thought I'd talk about cribbage, one of my favorite games to play. There is a lot of math inside cribbage, and so it's kind of fun to see some of that. And I just know that a lot of people don't get an opportunity to play cribbage, even though they may have a crib board sitting at home someplace and not know what to do with it. So why not learn how to play some cribbage? So you should have an outline of my PowerPoint, so we can kind of go through it fairly fast. Hopefully we can get around it to cribbage in. So, all right, overview of the game. First player to reach 121 points wins the game. So 121 points. We played on the standard 52 card deck, so regular deck of cards. Card values, so we have to add things up, so you always need to understand what the card values are. An ace counts as a 1, a 2 counts as a 2, a 3, a 3, a 4, a 4, all the way up to what, a 9's a 9. And then all the 10, Jack, Queen, King are all worth 10 points. So the value of an ace is 1. An ace is low, it's not high. You know, you always got to decide, is the ace high or low in a game? Ace is low in cribbage. All right, and then all the Jack, Queen, Kings are worth 10 points. And then you also need to understand how sequences are going to work, how runs are going to work. And the card sequence for runs is, it goes ace, 2, 3. So the ace is the low in a run and not the high. So it doesn't go Jack, Queen, King, ace. It goes ace, 2, 3, and so forth. So, all right, so we will be adding up cards and we'll be looking at runs of cards. So those are two different ways of scoring points in cribbage. First deal is determined by cutting the cards. So when you got to decide who gets to deal first, you cut the cards, and the player who cuts the lowest card gets to start the game out. And it's to your advantage to be the first dealer, so you do try to win that cut. You don't just let the other person deal. So, all right, and the dealer rotates to the left after each round. So, all right, so you cut the card to decide who is going to deal. All right, and then there's 3 versions of cribbage. There's 2-hand crib, which is what I recommend you starting out with. Then there's 3-hand crib, and then there's 4-hand crib. 2-hand crib is between 2 players. The dealer deals out 6 cards to each player, and each player keeps 4 of those cards and discards 2 into what's called the crib hand. And the crib hand belongs to the dealer. So that's why you want to be dealer first, because you get the first crib, and that's like extra points for you. All right, the crib is set aside. You don't even look at it. So you have these 4 cards you set aside, and you don't look at until the very end, and it's counted the last. The non-dealer strategy involves keeping cards that score points in your hands. We haven't talked about how you score points. And at the same time, you don't want to discard good cards to the dealer's crib. So it's a strategy in there. One of the things I like about cribbage is there's a lot of strategy to the game. And one strategy is what 2 cards you're going to discard to the dealer, to the crib hand. Now the dealer's strategy is reverse of that. They want to, they might be placing good cards in their crib hand, hoping to make more points. So there's a little bit of it's my crib. I'll put some good cards in my crib. It's their crib. I'm not going to put a good card in their crib, even if I have to sacrifice some points. And 3-hand crib, that's with 3 people playing. In three-hand crib, you deal out 5 cards to each player, and then 1 to the crib. All right, and then what happens? You have 5 cards. You discard 1 of those 5 cards. So you're always playing with what? 4 cards. All right. And then there's 4-hand crib. Oh, and then each player keeps their own score. So in 3-hand crib, everybody's on their own team. And you need what's called a 3-hand crib board is needed. And I'll show you what a 3-hand crib board looks like in a little bit. All right, 4-hand crib is played with teams. So you can play this with 4. That's generally what I like, playing 4-hand crib, especially at Christmas time because it gets everybody involved. Teams of 2 sitting across from each other. Dealer deals 5 cards to each player. You get 5 cards, you discard what? 1 to the dealer's crib. So you always have 4 cards that you play with, and then you always have a crib hand that's like an extra hand that we'll see at the end. All right, keeping score. There's 2 phases you can score points. Come on in. There's 2 phases for scoring points. There's what's called the pegging phase. This is when we start laying down our cards in the pegging phase. So that's when you're playing in the round. So you have the pegging phase. And then after you peg, you have what's called the counting phase. And that's where you count the points up in your hand. All right, I know it's a lot to take in, but we'll play a hand here in a second. Hopefully it makes a little more sense. And the score is kept on a cribbage board. So you don't have to have pencil and paper. You have a nice crib board to keep track of. The front peg represents the current score, and the back peg is advanced by counting spaces in front of the front peg. And I'll put a board up here in just a second to show you what that means. And the process continues. The back peg jumps over the front peg, and you keep adding. So here we have 2 crib boards. Let's look at the one on the left here. I know it's a little faint back there, but can you see the green pegs right there and right there? Back there? And then we got the red one and the red one. And so right now, who's ahead is green is ahead. They're trying to get around this board, all the way around this board, and score up to what, 121 points is what, right there. And so every time I score a point, I pick the back peg up. Let's say I score 3 points. I would pick the back peg up, come up here, and I'd count out 1, 2, 3, and put my peg in there. And that's my new current score. So you're always what? Taking the back peg and leaping over the front peg to what? Get your next score. So it's a nice thing. You don't have to have a scoreboard. You don't have to have pencil and paper. All you need is a crib board. Here's another fancy crib board. You notice it's the number 29. That turns out that is the highest crib hand you can have. The most points you can score in one hand is 29. Never seen it myself, but it's possible. And I just want you to point out this crib board over here, I don't know if you notice it has a red and a green. This would be for 2-hand crib or 4-hand crib, but not 3-hand crib. If you look here at this crib board, you see that it has 3 rows of pegs, and this would be a 3-hand crib board. So you can play with 3 people, or you can play with 4 people, or even 2 people. You don't have to have 3 with this board, but this does allow you to play 3-hand cribbage. The pegging phase. So after you deal your cards, the player to the right of the dealer cuts the card, and the dealer flips that card over. So you have to cut a card to start the game out. And that cut card will be used later. So it doesn't really do anything in the pegging phase, but it does do something in the counting phase. If the cut card happens to be a jack, though, jacks are special. If it's a jack, it happens to be worth 2 points. So let's say I cut a card and then I cut the jack, the dealer automatically scores 2 points. That is called the knob, by the way. The jack of, if a jack is cut, it's called the knob. Don't ask me why it's called the knob. I do not know that one. So, all right. And then the player to the left of the dealer now begins play by placing a card from their hand on the table and calling out the value. So they play a card. Maybe it's a 7, they'll say 7. And then the next person plays. Now, the next person, this is the start of the round, by the way, and the next person plays a card down, and they'll add it on to the running total. So let's say I play a 7. I'll pick on Kimberly here. She has an 8. She plays an 8, so she'd say 7 and 8 add up to what, 15? So we'd be at what, 15. You always have this, what's called a running total in the pegging phase. All right. Now, how do you score some points? Well, Kimberly, if she just played an 8 and made 15, guess what? You just scored 2 points. Anytime you hit the value of 15, 15 are worth 2 points. All right. And it's whoever played the card that makes 15, they score 2 points. All right, doesn't have to happen anytime you hit 15 in there. It doesn't have to happen on the second play. Could be on the third card, the fourth card, or even the fifth card. The value of 15 is worth 2 points whenever it's reached exactly in a round. Then you keep playing. If you pair cards, so let's say I play a 7 and Kimberly plays a 7, she pairs me up? She scores 2 points for a pair. Now, what if I have a 7 after that? I play another 7. So now we have 3 7s in a row. That would be 3 of a kind. Turns out 3 of a kind is worth 6 points, and I gave you a score sheet on there so you don't have to try to memorize all the different pairs and stuff. All right, so you can score points in the pegging phase by hitting 15. You can score points in the pegging phase by pairing up things. The play continues until with each player playing a card and adding on to the running total. So you keep adding on running total. You get 15. Maybe I play a 10. We're at 25. Then when you start getting up into the bigger numbers, play continues until either the running total hits 31. 31 is the magic cutoff. So if you hit 31, you play a card for 31, and guess what? When you hit 31 exactly, it's worth 2 points. If you can't play a card that hits 31, if no one can play a card that keeps the running total 31 or less, the round is over. So you got to play a card, but if you can't keep it under 31 or hit 31, then you say, I can't play, so you call that a go. You say go. And the next person might have a card that can play, they would play it. So what happens is you have to stay under 31. If a player can't play the card, they indicate this by saying go. The last player who can play scores 1 point for the go. And the next player starts a new round. So we play multiple rounds inside one hand. All right. And players, you must play. So let's say I'm holding an ace and we're at a running total of 28, and I know Kimberly has an ace. I just can tell that she has another ace, and I don't want to play that ace. Well, guess what? If it can play, you have to play it. And so you must always play as long as you can play and keep the running total under 31. All right, pegging phase continues. You keep playing rounds until everybody is out of cards. This ends the pegging phase. Okay, where did Stacy go? Oh, hang on, I need a deck of cards. Bill, you want to come up here real quick? So me and Bill are going to play a round. I don't know why I needed to shuffle, but and I'm going to steal the crib.
What?
Yep. All right, so he has 6 cards. I have six cards.
I have 5 cards.
6 cards. And we're going to keep our best hand real quick and discard. So we keep 4 cards. Okay. So I'm the dealer. Yeah, you win. Yeah. So go ahead and play your first card. So the first card he says is a 4. All right. So now I'm going to add on there, and I might play a 7. So 4 and 7 add up to what? 11.
16.
16. Okay. So right now,
5 down.
He's got a 5 down. He's got a 7 down. What would make a run of 3 is if I could play a 6. If I could play a 6 right now, he played a 5, I played a 7. A run of 3 would be worth 3 points. Oh, I have a 6. So we're at, what are we at, 16? So 16 and 6 add up to 22, and because I made a run of 3, I would peg 3 points. All right.
So I have a 6. So 22 are at 28 now, and that's a pair.
And that's
so I get 2 points.
So he gets 2 points. So as you play, you peg points along the way. So we're at what, 28? I got a 2, so I got to play. I'm at 30.
Go.
That's a go. I can't play again. So who played the last card? I played the last card, so I get 1 point. Now he starts.
10.
10, and I got 17, and I would get 1 for what? Last card as well. So as you play the pegging phase, thank you for playing, by the way. You can go back.
That's a good hand.
That was a good hand. I had almost a double run of 3. So, all right, and we didn't cut. If we would have cut, I didn't get a double run of 3. All right. So after you do the pegging phase, then you have the counting phase. All right. Other ways to score in the pegging phase. All right. If a player plays a card that makes a run of 3, which we just saw, and a run of 3 doesn't have to be in order. It doesn't have to be 5, 6, 7. It could be 5, 7, 6. That is a run of 3. And that's worth 3 points. Can you make a run of 4? Yeah. He could have played another card and made a run of 4. He could have played an 8 and made a run of 4. Those are worth 1 point for each card in the run. So you try to make runs, you try to make pairs, and you try to make what? 15 for 2 points. And 31. If a player that plays a card makes a 2 of a kind, that's worth 2 points. And we saw that. Bill paired me up. That was worth 2 points. If I could have paired up his pair, I would have made 3 of a kind, which is actually 3 pairs, which is worth 6 points. And then every once in a while, you will see it. It doesn't happen very often, but everybody happens to have the same cards, and you'll get a 4 of a kind, which is worth 12 points. And 12 points in pegging, that's a lot of points. It really is. All right. 2, 3, and 4 of a kind must be played in order. So I couldn't play a 6. Bill played a 7, and then I played a 6 and called that a pair. They have to be one after the other. The pairs have to be in order. So, all right, runs don't have to be in order, but pairs do. All right, and then the other thing is scoring combinations don't roll over. So just because I played a 7 as the last card there, you can't pair it up on the next round. So the scoring combinations all start over. All right, so that's the pegging phase. Scoring points in the counting phase. So after we get this all said and done, Bill's going to take his 4 cards and try to figure out how many points he has in his hand. And what he's going to do is combinations of any number of cards that sum to 15 are worth 2 points. So you want things that add up to 15. 7 and 8 add up to 15. 9 and 6 add up to 15. You can even use more than one card. You can use like a 10, an ace, and a 4, because an ace and a 4 add up to 5, and a 10 more would be what? 15. So you try to get combinations that add up to 15. The order doesn't matter. So if you have a 7 of hearts and 8 of clubs, that would add up to 15. You do not get to count that as a second 8 of clubs and 7 hearts. The order doesn't matter. They're still the same combination. So you can't say, well, 7 and 8's 15, 8 and 7's 15, so that's 2 15s. Nope, that's only 1 15. 5's, oh.
What if you play 2 separate 8 cards and a 7? Can you do an 8 and 7 and then an 8 and 7?
Yep. So that's a great, the question was, what if I have an 8 and 2 7s? Or an 8, oh, I'll use 8 and 2 7s since that's what I said. 8 and 2 7s. Well, I can use that 8 with the first 7, and I can use that 8 with the second 7, and that would make 2 15s for 4 points. All right. And you also have a pair. 2 7s. Matches, same card value. Order does not matter as well. So 2 of a kind is 2 points. So if you have a pair, it's worth 2 points. If you have 3 of a kind, it's worth 6 points, which actually 3 of a kind makes different pairs when you start looking at it. And here's a little bit of math for anybody who's taking stats. It's the combination 3, choose 2. Just thought I'd work a little bit more math in there other than sums. All right. If you haven't seen that before, it doesn't make any sense to you, so don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. You don't need to understand that to play cribbage. All right. If you have 4 of a kind, like maybe I got 4 kings, well, it turns out that's worth 12 points in your hand. All right. So sequences, runs. Runs of 3 or more cards also are worth points. Example, a 2 of hearts, a 3 of clubs, and a 4 of diamonds. They don't have to be the same suit, but they have to be what? 2, 3, 4. And that would make a run of 3. And if I had a 5 of clubs, that would make a run of what? 4. And each card in your run is worth what? 1 point. So there's an example, 8 of spades, 9 of spades, 10 of diamonds, jack of hearts. That would be worth 4 points. That would be a run of 4. Flushes. A flush is all of one suit. And there's a couple of nuances on flushes. First off, it's worth 4 points if the cut card does not match. So you have the cut card. And the cut card, here I cut a 9 of spades. The cut card does count in your counting, and we'll talk about counting a hand. We'll count a couple of hands here in a second. I know I got a lot yet to talk about. But if Bill would have had 4 clubs, oh, he did have 4 clubs. So Bill had 4 clubs. So he gets 4 points for a flush. He doesn't get 5 points because the cut card was a 9 of spades, and that doesn't match. If it would have been a club, he would have gotten 5 points. The crib hand can only be counted as a flush if the cut card matches. So in the crib hand, you have to have 5 of the same suit, and you get 5 points. The knob. The knob is the jack of the suit cut to start the play. So we cut a 9 of spades. What would be the knob? The knob would be the jack of spades. And if it's in your hand, it's worth 1 point. If it's cut, it's worth 2 points to the dealer only. But if it's in your hand, it's worth 1 point. So you always got to watch out for the knob. The knob sneaks up on you. And if it's in your hand, it's worth 1 point. If it's cut, it's worth 2 points.
What is the knob?
The knob is the jack of the suit cut. So if the 9 of spades is cut, the knob would be the jack of spades. And it may be in your hand, it may not be in your hand. It may still be what? Back in the deck. So nobody may have the knob, but somebody may have the knob. All right. So in the counting phase, that cut card is used in scoring points. So now that's the only time the cut card gets used is in the counting phase. And it gets to get counted in. All right. Starting with the player who played first, they get the count first. And then you go around in order and you peg your points as you go. And the next player shows and counts their points. So after we play, do our rounds and run out of cards, then we start playing. And then we start counting, and we use the cut card in our count. All right. After all the players have counted, then the dealer gets to count the crib hand. So the crib hand is the last hand. It's like an extra hand for the dealer. And so that's why it's your advantageous to what? Be the first dealer, because you get first chance of getting more points. If anytime anybody is pegged 121 points, the game is over. Doesn't have to be exact, but you just have to hit 121. And if no player has reached 121 points, you deal another hand out. All right, so let's count some hands. All right, so here I dealt out a hand. All right, so first off, the card cut was a 4. This is the dealer hand, so my notation was this was the dealer hand, this is the non-dealer hand. All right, so let's get the non-dealer hand to start with. They had a 2, 2 8s, a 5, and a king and a 9. They chose to discard the king and the 9. discover king and a 9 don't really make a lot extra point. Yeah.
Is the cut card viewable while you are making these decisions of which hand to
Oh,
throw?
Bill just asked a great question. The cut card, you do not cut until after you have discarded. So you don't know what's cut until later. So yeah, oh man, yeah. So you don't know what that cut card is. So it's important. That's an awesome question there, young man. So, all right. So here, I chose to throw away the king and the 9. Why did I do that? Well, what does 2 and 8 add up to? 2 and 8 add up to what? 10. Oh, and 10 and 5 makes what? 15. So here I have a 2 and an 8 for 10. I have another 2 and an 8 for what? 10. So this goes back to Rhonda's question. And then I have a pair of 8s for 2 points as well. I don't think I put... Hang on a second. So let's go to this sheet here. So this sheet here tells you the scoring. So when we go back to those, I should have put that in a little bit sooner order. All right, so let's count the points here. So this one here. So first off, I look, I don't have any flushes. That 4, well, what would make 4 into 15? I'd have to add 11. I don't think I can get an 11 out of here. So I look at this hand, I see 2 and 8's 10, 2 and 8's 10. So I see I got 15-2, 15-4, and a pair of 8s makes what? 6 points. So that hand is worth 6 points. Then I go to the dealer. The dealer would cut. Oh, what does the dealer had? Well, first off, the dealer had 5, 6, 7, and a 3. So he almost had a run. Well, he had a run of 3. What happened? The 4 now makes a run of what? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this dealer has a run of what? 5 to begin with. So they got a run of 5. There's 5 points. Then we look for 15s. And this is when you start getting good. What do you have to add to 7 to get to 15? You got to have an 8. Can I get an 8? Oh yeah, 3 and 5 add up to 8, right? So 3 and 5 is 8. 7 more is what? 15. Can I get another 15? Well, what do you have to add to 5 to get to 15? 10, right? Oh, 4 and 6 add up to 10. So there's another 15. So I'm looking for what? All the combinations of what? Make 15. And I could use, and I'm glad you pointed out, am I missing any? The 3 and the 7 add up to 10. I can use them more than once. That goes back to Rhonda's question as well. You can use them more than once, as long as it's a different combination. So this one, let's see if we can count it. So we said we had a run of 5, which is 5 points. We have 3 and 7's 10, so 15, 2. Then we had 4 and 6 is 10, 15, 4. So it looks like I have 15, 2, 15, 4, and a run of 5 makes what? 9 points, unless I missed any. So I almost had a flush, but that 7 of hearts was not a diamond. If that would have been a diamond, I would have had what? A flush as well. And I would have counted it as well. All right. Then after this person pegs their points, then they count the crib. And they look at the crib here, and I'm looking at the crib. First thing I see is I have a jack. Remember, the jack could be a knob, but it's a diamond. It would have to be what? A club. So I don't have a knob. Bummer, because that's worth 1 point. 4 does not add up to 4 and 10 does not add up to 15. 4 and 9 does not add up to 15, but I do have a run of 3, Jack, Queen, King. So this would be worth what? 3 points only. All right, so you can reuse cards in different combinations, and you can, I forgot what I was going to say there. Okay, so here's another hand. All right, so in this case, here's this hand. This was the non-dealer hand. They chose to keep 2 6s and a 5. They're hoping for a 4. Why are they hoping for a 4 to be cut? Because 4 and 6 add up to 10. And 10 and 5 make what? 15. And if I had a 4, I'd have a run. But I don't have a 4. So I start looking at 15s. 6 and 5 don't add up to 15. Oh, 6 and 9 add up to 15, don't they? So I got a 6 and 9, there's 15, 2. 6 and 9, there's 15, 2. So I got 15, 2, 15, 4. And then I got a pair of 6s, and a pair is worth 2. So I got 15-2, 15-4, and a pair makes 6. So this hand would be worth what? 6 points. So when you're counting, you usually start with your 15s, and then you go on to your exotic stuff. All right. Your runs of 3s, your pairs, and things like that. All right, so let's look at the dealer's hand. The dealer, I see a 6, 7, 7, almost a run of 3, but not quite a run of 3. They were hoping for a run of 3. But I do see I have a pair of 7s. Oh, and I do see that 2 and 7 add up to what? 9, and 9 and 6 add up to what? 15. So I have some 15s. I have 15-2, 15-4, pair makes 6. So that's all we'd have there, 6 points. All right, coming down here, here's the crib hand. It's the last hand counted. I see already 2 and 3, and what do I know 2 and 3 add up to? 5, and we love 5s in cribbage because 5s make up lots of 15s. 5 and 10 add up to 15, so there's 15-2, 15-4. Oh, and then I can use this 2 as well, right? 15-6, 15-8. Oh, and I don't get the knob because that's a heart, and I need it to be what? A diamond. So what did I say? That was 15-2, 15-4, 15-6. Oh, and I almost missed a pair of 2s there for what? 15-8. All right, so I know it's a lot to try to do in 45 minutes, and we would count hand 3, but I want to go back and talk about one more thing. Cribbage can be a very competitive game. People love to play cribbage for competition. All right. During either the pegging phase, if a player misses points, another player may mug the player for points and peg the missed points. So that is called muggings, where if you miss something, the other person can count it and take your points. All right. It should be decided before the game if the game will be played with or without muggings. Everybody's feelings will be better if it's ahead of time, because there's nothing that'll be more aggravating than suddenly the other person's playing muggings and taking points from you when you thought we were playing a friendly game. So friendlier game, I suggest no muggings. Cutthroat game, muggings, where if you miss the points, the other player can take the points. All right? So, all right. So here I've kind of done a score sheet. That's your score sheet there. And I've put what counts for what and when it's counted. Sometimes it counts only in pegging. Sometimes it counts in pegging and what? Counting. For instance, a 31 only counts in pegging. A go only counts in pegging. And so forth. So this is the play. So, all right, I know we're out of time, but if you'd like to play a quick hand of crib, there's several of us that would hang around for a few minutes and help you figure out how to play a quick hand of cribbage. So, all right, thank you.